Hi, I'm Emil Wilbekin. You may know me from Essence, from Vibe, from Native Son. Join me in this room so you can hear and learn about coming out, being a Black gay man, and healing in our Black communities. I am a culture curator. I am a activist. I'm a journalist. And I'm a Renaissance man. I always was attracted to art and photography and fashion and colors, even as a child. And my parents started calling me Mr. Reporter at an early age because I knew everything going on in the house, everything that was happening in my neighborhood, and everything happening in our church. So my parents started calling me Mr. Reporter, which I think is what led to the journalism career. My childhood was very blessed and privileged. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. My parents were both working professionals. So kind of like, walked to school, took the bus to school, grew up in a Black neighborhood, so super grounded. We went to church every Sunday. My parents were really active in the church. My father's from St. Croix in the Virgin Islands, so we were very involved in the Caribe West Indies Society. So a lot of Caribbean cultural events. My parents were very active in the community. They were activists. They were what I would call community servants. I kind of knew something was different, but I wasn't quite sure. I knew that a lot of my friends in the neighborhood and at school were really into girls, and I was like, no, they're cool, I want to hang out with them, but I wasn't like, I want to date them. Mm-hmm. And I kind of remember watching Fame and being just obsessed with Gene Anthony Ray, who played Leroy. And it wasn't a sexual obsessed, it was more of there's something about him that drew me to him, that I felt a similarity to him. And then it wasn't until college that I kind of really figured out, oh, okay, I'm definitely different, and I'm probably gay, but I'm really struggling to accept that within myself. It was stressing me out because my parents were also very social about what other people would think about my sexual identity. I wasn't really out. A lot of my girlfriends that I hung out with were like, he's gay. There were all these rumors in college that I was gay, which was kind of tumultuous for me because it was hard for me because I was trying to figure it out and to have people kind of calling you out. When I graduated from Hampton, I went to spend the summer in London on a Boston University internship. While I was on the internship in Boston, I was reading Ralph Ellison's The Invisible Man, and I was flipping through Time Out London one day, and I saw this picture of a black and white photo for a movie called Looking for Langston by Isaac Julian. And it was these two black men who were nude, but it's very artful, with these white calla lilies in the background. And I was like, okay, what is this? Because this is hot. And then I snuck away from my group and went to go see the movie. And that was the first time that I ever saw kind of black gay love in a very positive way and not in a stereotypical way. And what's beautiful about the movie is it's set to Langston Hughes's poetry. So it was very, very beautiful, and it's set during the Harlem Renaissance and then also in the early 90s. And that was it. That was my coming out moment. And I was in another country. But it wasn't until I came home and went to Columbia University here in New York that I realized, okay, I'm definitely gay. I definitely need to come to terms with myself. And that's when I started telling my friends that I was gay. So most of my friends when I came out were like, oh, thank God you finally realized it, because we've been praying for you and we've been hoping that you would just accept it. Yeah. And I didn't realize it was paining my friends to see me going through the struggle of coming out and being gay and being my full self. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I came out and I was in New York and I was living my best life and I was going to clubs and I was, at Columbia, and it was amazing. In Harlem, it was really, really a breath of fresh air, except I hadn't told my family. So there were parts of me at this point that were out and then parts that were still in the closet. So I came out to my older brother, Eric, first. Okay. He's 6 years older than me. He was concerned about my health first, but told me that whatever happened, he would always stand by my side. So I told him first, and then a year later, I told my parents. And it was one of the most horrific moments of my life. My brother was really central to my family and I pushing past it. So my brother made me swear that I would educate my parents about what it means to be gay, what it means to kind of live a different lifestyle than what they know, and educate them. And then I guess he challenged them to be understanding, but he challenged us all not to leave each other and to let the love connect us. And later my mother would tell me their biggest fear was that I would get hurt, that I would be kind of beaten because of my sexual orientation and identity, that I would get HIV or AIDS, and then I would get fired from my job because I was gay, because my parents are older, so they came up at a different time. When I launched Native Son in 2016, we launched with an awards dinner, so it was 50 Black gay men, intergenerational, so there were millennials up to men in their 70s. And like about a week and a half before the event, I had a panic attack because I realized that here I am I'm going to lead this movement. This is the breakout of the movement of inspiration and empowerment for Black gay man, but I wasn't authentically living my truth. I had not shared with the world that I was HIV positive in a world where Black gay men have the highest rates of infection of HIV and AIDS. And I thought, I'll be a fraud if I don't reveal it at this dinner, and what better place? Like, if you're gonna give a testimony, give it at the launch of the Native Son dinner. So I really struggled with that. My mother had been in and out of the hospital sick during that time, so it was like, that was stressful, and I just didn't know, and I hadn't told my mother. That's the big part. And I had been HIV positive for 15 years. I was healthy, I'm undetectable, but I hadn't told my mom. And I was like, so I'm gonna tell a room full of people, there's gonna be press in the room. A friend of mine who was working on the event said that when I said that I was HIV, I said I'm an HIV positive, I'm a Black gay man living with HIV, is what I said. And she said that I was so joyous and happy when I said that. The next day, I woke up and I felt like a boulder had been lifted off my chest. It was as if everything was now in Technicolor. When I walked down the street, I could feel my feet hitting the pavement. I just felt super liberated and free. And then men who were at the dinner reached out to me and were like, I can't believe you did that. I didn't know. Apparently my friends in the room didn't know. And they were like, thank you, I'm positive too. My spirituality has been very helpful in me living like Jesus, like serving and giving back, and it's not about me. Creating a movement for Black gay men has not been easy. I've had to put a lot of my time, effort, work, and myself into it, money. But what's really powerful is when I meet young people on the street or at a party who are like, thank you for being who you are and being a light and being an example. And so I think when everything I do is really based on kind of my spiritual map and center. And so even when it's hard, it's like you have to be good. You have to be empathetic. You have to be giving. I go to First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem, and our motto is live, love, serve. And so I really try to embody live, love, serve in everything that I do. The healing is in the loving of ourselves. I think we put too much weight on how other people see us and judge us, and we carry the shame that we don't need to have. Some of that, especially for Black folks, is part of society and white supremacy and unconscious bias and all these horrible things that they put on us. But the only way we can find liberation is if we love ourselves. And then within the community, it's about loving everybody in the community. It doesn't matter if they're gay or mixed or disabled or trans. We should love everybody the same. And so I try to practice that, and I'm hoping that my life is an example of how we heal. I think about my mom and how much she poured into me, how much she was able to do. So even when things are really hard for me, I pull from that sense of self, that sense of power, that reserve, that resilience. I'm grateful for Black women. A lot of how I shaped Native Son is based on experiences from Essence about bringing a group of Black women together and pouring into each other and lifting each other up and affirming each other, I was like, wow, these principles would work with Black gay men, with my community. So I'm grateful for Black women. Black women, to me, are everything, and you listen to Black women, you love Black women, and you respect Black women. My recommendations for anyone who is struggling with their sexual identity is, it's so much more beautiful and liberating on the other side. Own who you are, own your truth, live your truth, and everything will be fine.